Hey, Take Stock in College Scholars. We're happy to have you back for another episode of the College Corner podcast, where we offer you success tips for college, career, and life. I'm your host, Daisha, and I'm joined by some special guests today. Anna Gallardo and Antonio Kinselli are two of our Take Stock in College student ambassadors. They have had the amazing opportunity to study abroad and take college coursework in another country. They are here to share more about their journey so that you, our Take Stock in College scholars, can take advantage of similar opportunities at your colleges. So let's just go ahead and get started. Antonio, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Hey guys, my name is Antonio Kinselli. I'm a Take Stock in College advisor, student ambassador. And I guess I should start off by saying I go to University of South Florida and I studied abroad in Panama. So it was definitely a crazy experience. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I'm also a finance major and also a commercial real estate fanatic. So anything about finance, as well as the commercial real estate industry, I'm your guy.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Antonio, for that introduction. Anna, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Gallardo. I'm a second year student at UF, public relations major. And this past summer, I actually studied in Barcelona, Spain. So again, that was like a very shocking experience, new language, new culture, everything like that. But I'm super excited to tell everybody about it.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm so excited to hear more about you all's experience. Antonio, being able to travel to Panama, and Anna, you being able to travel to Barcelona. It sounds really fun. So just to get started, why did you all choose the specific locations that you chose?
So I guess I should start off by saying that, I never traveled outside the US, let alone probably the state of Florida. So it was just overwhelming like all at once. But then one of my advisors who reached out to me, they had this program where, a group of like 10 students can actually travel to Panama. So that was like the first location that was kind of like given to me. And I was like all for it because, I'm all about cultural experiences and, definitely sounded like a nice time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had a couple reasons for choosing Barcelona. The main one was because I was looking for something exciting. I was like, I want to look forward to have something this summer, anything like that. And the trip that I went to actually was with my college. So at UF, and as a PR major, you're automatically in the College of Journalism and Communications. And this was actually a trip that was with those students and professors, so it offered that coursework. So it kind of knocked two birds with one stone. I was able to take classes that were with my coursework and for my degree, and also travel with UF students. And then my roommate was also going at the time, so it was like it was very convenient because I already knew who she was, and so I was like, all right, I'm not gonna be by myself completely. But it was just a very awesome experience. And I was really excited to see Spain. I also speak Spanish, so it was like I was like, okay, it won't be that much of a culture shock. Like, I'll be okay a little bit. So there were a couple of reasons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Anna, were you able to speak the language with some of the people that you met there?
Yeah, it was very like awakening, like eye-opening, I guess. A lot of when we first arrived there, the friends that like I kind of made at the beginning of the trip and that I stuck with throughout the whole time, whenever we went anywhere, they were like, Anna, talk to them, like tell them what we want, things like that. And it was also interesting because I'm from Cuba, and so the dialects are very different, even though it's the same language. So I would like be shopping at a grocery store and I would ask the employee for something, and they'd be like, oh, where are you from? Like that we don't say that here, like we say this instead. And I'd be like, oh, interesting. So it was a good learning experience as well, even with the same language.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of our Take Stock in College scholars would really appreciate the opportunity to just be immersed in other cultures and to, just observe and maybe even learn parts of other languages and things like that. So thank you for sharing that. I'm curious to know about you all's process to leading up to the experience, because sometimes students are unsure about if they should study abroad or not. because they're confused about the process that it takes to actually be able to go abroad and take courses in another country. So if you all could just share what that process looked like. Did you have to get a passport? Did you have to meet with any advisors? And just the general process?
Yeah, so the process for me was like super simple. My college for finance, they were pretty much like promoting the study abroad for 1 semester. And I was like kind of hesitant at first because I just, I didn't know how that was going to affect my financial aid at all. But then after actually speaking with an advisor, it was very laid out, very organized because she just pretty much gave a specific action plan for, where to, like how to apply for the passport, as well as, you know, the fundamentals of really just applying for the program. Little did I know that actually traveling abroad was going to be cheaper than my tuition paying in state. So that was just a no-brainer to, jump all for it. And I also worked closely with my advisor for financial aid to make sure that I'm taking the right classes in order for my scholarships to apply. So it was a pretty set process. I would say definitely just reach out to your advisors, as well as for USF, they have a travel abroad program specialist, which just makes everything super simple. And yeah, the process was pretty simple. I applied for my passport, took about like 2 months to come in, and then they booked the plane tickets and I was on my way the first of the semester.
Okay, I had a follow-up question to that as well. In regards to scholarships, did your school have any unique scholarship opportunities to assist you with your study abroad experience?
Yeah, so I believe I applied for the first generation study abroad program because both my parents did not go to college, as well as first time for just traveling out of the U.S. I applied for that program and it paid for the entire course of my study, as well as there and back as well. So I did not have to worry anything about financials. My food was paid for, housing was paid for. But yeah, I just recommend just talking to your advisor, because there is so much different scholarships out there that can really just kind of boost your way into like whatever you're aspiring to visit, as well as study.
Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing that so much. I'm sure our Take Stock in College scholars would really benefit from, seeking out those types of programs. Anna, what about you?
Yeah, similar to what Antonia was saying, and like the programs that USF has, UF is very similar. They have an international center, which has, like, if you look up online, it has all the study abroad opportunities that are there. And so that's kind of how I found mine. And my first step that I took was to sort of email the director of it, and be like, hey, like, what is something that I should know? What are the steps that I should know? What are the websites I should be looking at? Things like that. Also, I had to apply for my passport, get my passport renewed, things like that. And I, again, like Antonio, would suggest really talking to an advisor. I spoke to so many of them when I was getting my, everything figured out for study abroad, sending so many emails, being like, with one question, like the whole email was just one question that I wanted to clarify. But they're so willing to help because everybody wants you to go study abroad. It's like such an experience that everybody recommends. And so if you want to ask them a question, they're so willing to answer it. And so I spoke to an advisor at the College of Journalism, who was making sure that I was taking the classes that I would need, and that they would be applicable to my degree, and that I would still be on track when I came back in fall. I spoke to an advisor at Financial Aid, making sure that the scholarships I had would be applicable into summer, and sort of what that would look like and when it would be dispersed, and how, if I could get it deferred for a different time. And that's what I did. I ended up getting a financial aid deferment so that I wouldn't have to pay it until fall when my other scholarships kicked in. I spoke to my Take Stock advisor in my county to be like, hey, can I use it in summer? And like, what are sort of the details with that? Yeah, it was a longer process, I think, for me, but it was something that once you're in it, you're just in it. And so it did feel like it went by super fast. And then suddenly I was in Spain. So
That's
Okay.
amazing, Anna.
Yeah, and thank you so much. It seems like from just taking initiative and being proactive with everything in the process, you can definitely, even if it takes a little bit longer, similar to Anna's experience, you can still end up, studying abroad where you want to study abroad. So thank you. Another really, I think it's a critical question as well, because we all know as students, it's academics first. What did your experience feel like in the classroom? How was the classroom and the coursework different, if it was different from the classes or the courses you took when you were in the US?
Yeah, so I would say, so there was actually a shuttle campus with a program with FSU. So it was all in person, but then a lot of like, it was like a lot of objective classes as well. So I was taking mostly my gen eds my first year. So it was more like cultural exploration, but in this program, it was a lot of like hands-on activities. We traveled to different tribes to help with like their marketing for their small little businesses. So it was definitely a big shift that I wasn't used to, just because classes are more, standardized. But with this program, it counted for all my credits, but also just give me an eye-opening view, how like different ways we can learn, because it was just so mind-opening, just for all the programs that we were kind of diving into. Um, but yeah, it was like a hybrid of hands-on activities as well as in class with other FSU students at that shuttle campus.
Yeah, for mine, my experience was a little bit different because ours was actually with our UF professors. So our UF professors flew with us in the group flight with us, and those are the ones that we met with. And we had certain like we had an agenda when we first went, and that was kind of like our schedule was laid out. We were only there for a month, so we were like trying to make the most of it and still focusing on those academics. And so we actually met at a hotel, and it was like our responsibility to get from our apartment to the hotel on class days. We only had classes like in the morning, depending on which credits you were taking and like how many classes you were taking abroad. But it was with the UF professors, because a big part of our grade was like going on excursions, so going on hikes and going to see different museums and things like that. It was like our grade, and I took two classes when I was abroad, and 90% of my grade in both was just being present wherever we were going. And so they took attendance at the beginning of every excursion, like when we were in a big group, you had a specific person you had to go to sign in. And that was like the major part of my grade. But the classes were very, very like eye-opening still. Like I took a class that was for media, and it was like ethics and mass communication. That was the favorite one I took abroad, and it focused a lot on like the difference between media in Spain and media in the US. And so it was one of those ways that like you're applying what you're learning about their culture and comparing it with ours while still learning about your degree. And so it was very eye-opening, and the classes were, I think, awesome to take abroad and just kind of they see how the cultures influence the coursework. And also I thought it was awesome that half of our grade was just based on if we went hiking or not.
That's amazing. Yeah, that was sort of my same experience as well. A lot of it was just like touring Panama, looking at like how our culture is different from our from the US. But yeah, there's just like so much like different nuances with the curriculum that just made it so much fun and like so engaging. And honestly, I just learned so much, in a short semester.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you both so much for sharing about your course experience. I will say I'm convinced at this point that I should have studied abroad when I was in school.
You should have.
Yeah, because just being able to, like you said, Anna, just be present, and in the moment, and just learning about other cultures, observing other cultures, and just being outside and getting active and things like that. That's just such a great experience to have, and then have that be a part of your grade, a majority of your grade as well. I just think, that's a great opportunity, especially for our current students. I want to know just about what the daily life was like. So, for example, how did you all feel about the food, the music? What was the weather like? I could imagine that all of those different aspects of the experience also had an impact on your overall view of studying abroad.
Yes, I guess the schedules were totally different. So, sort of staying in Florida my whole life, and then actually going to Panama, it was just like sort of a culture shock. I mean, the food was completely different. I never had fish, seafood, anything in my life, and it was my first time trying fish over there, and I absolutely loved it. So I guess like the culinary was totally different, but I honestly loved it. It's all like freshly made over there, and I was sort of inspired of just like how fresh the food is compared to where I'm at right now. So that was just different, but I was all for it. As well as just like the surroundings was all different. I mean, we started our days super early at 5 a.m. Try to get all the academics out of the way, and then you know the rest of the day was sort of just exploring, going on lots of different hikes, really just like seeing why Panama is Panama. I mean, there's so much different cultures, inhabited in different regions, that we just sort of wanted to experience for ourselves. We lived in a tribe for about 1 week, seeing just like how it is not to live without electricity. So it was just a huge shock. I mean, these people, they're making everything by hands, not using any cars, their mode of transportation is through the river. And I was like, I was just so overwhelmed of, how my daily lifestyle is completely different, compared to the Panamanians. So yeah, it was definitely a culture shock, but I was all for it.
So our daily life kind of depended on the day. It was like the days that we had class, we were able to get up when we wanted in time for our class. And then we just had to make sure that we were at the hotel by the time our class started. And most of our afternoons were free, unless we were scheduled for like a cooking class with the UF study abroad or things like that. We did have some days where we went on excursions as a group. And so we would have to meet in the morning at like a meeting point on the bus, and they would bus us wherever we were going. We went to Madrid for about a week. And so that was really exciting. And we did so much there. I would say a lot of the daily life in Spain was very busy, very packed, because we were trying to make the most of our experience. And so we we're planning our days ahead. Any free day that we had, we were trying to find like time to go see museums or go see a live show, go see, a new place to hike, anything like that. When it comes to the food, we went grocery shopping. Actually in Barcelona, we had a grocery store that was really close to the apartment that we were placed at. And so one thing I will say is about our daily life, everything was a lot cheaper where we were, which is kind of shocking, because you would think like Barcelona is such a big city and like it's so popular that the food must be really expensive, but it was very like, once you the way I did it was I took cash and I went to an embassy, like an exchange place, and I exchanged it for euros, and it was the fastest thing I could do, and it was so cheap to just like give them the physical cash and then get it all back, and it was very cheap. So that's what we did. Kind of, we went out for breakfast, and we tried new foods everywhere we went, and it was the most delicious food ever. Like Antonio said, the quality of the food is such a difference to what we experience in our daily lives that you're really questioning. You're like, okay, so like one thing that we said a lot was, I will say something about Barcelona is that a lot of the people smoke. So smoking is very popular. And so that's something we dealt with every day, and like the air quality there. But it also made us realize like, wow, their food quality is so good because their life expectancy is so high compared to ours. And so it was another part of like what we saw as the daily life there. And we were just talking to new people and exploring the city and seeing different museums. And it was a lot of fun every single day, no matter what we did.
Yeah, definitely jam packed. I was a little overwhelmed, but just taking it day by day, those experiences just kind of molded in my brain.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And I'm also curious because I know being abroad, especially when you're abroad, sometimes even for an entire semester, what was it like for you all to keep in contact with your family and your friends that were here in the USA? What did that look like?
So for me, I'm pretty bad about this. So I did not have an international plan. So contact with my family was very limited. Only when I was at like the hotel, like using their Wi-Fi or something. But other than that, I did not have a lot of communication for like 3 months. But yeah, like I would always do like WeChat, and then just yeah, just like email, because I did not have the international calling. But I think it was great to just kind of take a step back, kind of get off the internet, off of social media, and just realize that you don't need that stuff in order to have fun. And just like kind of key in on what you're proud of, and just what's around you.
Mhm.
Yeah, my experience was kind of similar and also very different at the same time. When I also do not have an international plan with my phone provider, and I know a lot of people who traveled with me did, but what some of us did was when we got to Spain, we immediately looked up like with the hotel Wi-Fi. We were like best phone providers in Spain for like a temporary card, for a temporary SIM plan. And so that's what we did. We found the nearest like cell phone provider, and we went to them and we said, hey, I'm studying here for a month. What SIM card do you suggest? And it was very helpful. It was the best decision I made. Just because like I am very much a person who has a mother who's like, let me text you, like, let me make sure you're okay, which I get. And it was so nice to have that communication with people still here. I also had a friend who was studying abroad in London at the same time. And so being able to communicate with her was so fun. So I bought a SIM card for my phone abroad, and they put it in for me. I went a whole month with it. I didn't use I didn't even make a dent in the gigabytes I had. And then at the end of the trip, I took it back out and I put mine back in, and everything was fine. It was something that I hadn't used to. I was very nervous about it when I was going. But once I got there, it was like, they were so helpful, because I'm assuming they get, study abroad students all the time who are going for the same thing, or even travelers. And so it was super fun. In other ways, I used WhatsApp. That was like a big form of communication that I used, especially like when I didn't have service in a certain location, but I did have Wi-Fi. So that was something that me and my family used to communicate with, which was also very helpful.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of students who are studying abroad may experience those same types of things. So it's good that you all mentioned the specific apps and places that they could go to get help with that. I did want to just know in general, how do you feel like your study abroad experience impacted your perspective on life?
I'm just very grateful, to have this opportunity to just like kind of realize those relationships. So I'm big on finance, and just seeing like the micro and then also the macro effects of like how Panama's economy worked was just truly amazing. And just seeing it from on the local, medium and like regional scale, it did open my eyes on how different cultures function and how that affects the government. And it just taught me to be more grateful for everything in my life, just because they were saying like 70% of the country doesn't have like electricity, running water. So just like basic stuff that we have here in the US just wasn't applicable in Panama. But also like what Anna was talking about, just like the air quality, just like little things that you experience day in and day out over there. It's a huge culture shock. So that's kind of why I'm grateful, is just because I got to experience so much different experiences, but also meet such amazing people that I still keep in contact with. Even though I don't speak heavy on Spanish, I'm still learning. I have like a kind of like a buddy system over there as well, so still developing those relationships and connections. And it's just a great way to kind of connect on a local level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much like Antonio said, it was just a great experience to really assimilate myself in that culture. It was great Spanish practice, and now I don't take that for granted as much. And it was just like very eye-opening to be like, okay, so this is the possibilities of what working can be like. These are the different fields that we can work with. And especially taking those classes that sort of compared the two, it was very eye-opening to just be abroad and meet so many new people. I experienced riding a metro for the first time and having a metro card. And so it was very like eye-opening, and I just love the experience, and it has completely changed my perspective on life and the opportunities that are out there. It just made me realize, like the world doesn't really revolve around me as much as I thought it did. And so it's very like, it's such an experience that I think everybody should take part of if they can. And I will always suggest it to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you so much. In terms of our Take Stock in College Scholars, that's our audience. And so, you all being a part of these programs, what advice do you have specifically for Take Stock in College Scholars who are thinking about studying abroad?
Honestly, I would just say reach out, to every contact in your college, because you never know what connections they might have. I'm a big, person of, if you don't ask, you'll never know. And the worst thing they can say is no. So I make sure to ask like my advisors, financial aid, if there's like any programs out there that can kind of help like lead me towards my goals. Because of this program, I truly realized that, commercial real estate was like my passion, just seeing like how it affected like Panama. So just, making sure that you reach out to like advisors and different connections. You never know until you try it. But if you want to add to that, Anna.
Yeah, for sure. Antonio mentioned earlier that he was a first gen student, and I'm also a first gen student. And so I'm assuming that there's, some Take Stock college students who are also first gen. And I think it's such an experience, it's such a valuable experience for not only students who have that guidance going into college already, but also for first gen students who are just trying to figure it out. It's something that sets you apart from everywhere. I really felt that I had a successful first year, had a successful time, and like made it through that first road bump of getting to college by studying abroad. And it was something that was so rewarding as a first gen student to be like, yeah, like I was able to do that. I was able to, like Antonio said, reach out and make those connections and learn about this program that not a lot of other people were able to go on and experience all these new things and this new food and this new culture and this new language. And so that would also kind of be my advice, like Antonio said, is just like, don't be afraid of reaching out. If that's something that you really want to do, you can reach out to me. You can reach out, I'm sure, to Antonio, to literally anybody who has done it. And we will give you as much advice. And everybody is so willing to give advice. That's something I learned. Because like I said earlier, they do want you to study abroad. That's something that everybody suggests, and I will suggest it until the end of time. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Anna and Antonio, for sharing your study abroad experiences with us. We hope this encouraged someone else to submit those applications for that study abroad opportunity they may have been thinking about but just haven't submitted it yet. So thank you all so much for tuning in to the College Corner podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments what country that you'd like to complete a study abroad program in. And we can't wait to see your responses. So until next time, keep your eyes open for new opportunities to enhance your college experience.